American Gunfighter Podcast. Hosted by your instructors from Ghost Ring Tactical. With their combined experience in the military, law enforcement, firearms instructing industry, and security, they'll be discussing tactics, training, firearms, and equipment to help you become an even better American gunfighter.
Hey everybody, Nick here, and welcome to another episode of the American Gunfighter Show. The instructors I have with me today, let's start with Mike and No.
As always, good evening.
We have Chad Cotty.
Hello.
And we have Tim Proctor with us tonight.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so tonight we are going to be talking about knife fighting. This is a topic that our listeners have asked us to speak about. And I figured this was a perfect time to talk about knife fighting because myself and Micah just got back from a knife fighting class, a 2-day knife fighting class that was...
Hashtag don't do it. Podcast is over. Moving on to the next subject.
It was a very, very challenging class. So Mike and myself, we took a shivworks class with Craig Douglas. You guys, very, very good class. Craig's been around in the industry for years. It was good. I think it was more physical than we expected. Okay?
I had no expectations. You just rolled me into it. So I was like, I'll go.
I hit up all the instructors. I'm like, who wants to go? Micah was the only taker of.
But yes. Why was I the only taker, Nick? Why was that?
You're instructor number one.
Because I'm Jewish and it was Easter weekend. That's why. He had no idea. It's like, I didn't know it was Easter weekend.
Yes. I'm like, who schedules a class on Easter weekend?
Sold out. Like, we had like 26 people?
27 guys.
People in that class?
Yeah, I got in trouble with my wife, but she got to do, they planned on doing fun stuff that got canceled.
They didn't do it either.
I was on week 6 of travel for work.
Were you?
I was literally going to sign up, and then I called Micah, and I'm like, hey, where are you going? And he's like, oh, I'm on my way. And I'm like, yeah, there's no way. I'm on week 6 of travel. And not happening.
Yeah, I'll be home 8 days this month.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
my wife and...
For most of my guys, they couldn't get away on Easter weekend since most of my guys have families and children that they can't abandon like I did. So, yes.
Not it.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So we took this class. Again, a very physical class. I don't know if you can tell. You can see my face. And my scars are going away pretty good. You know, I did.
Karate Man bruises on the inside.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yes. But if you could see my face, I had scabs on my face, scabs over here. I was still removing scabs from my forehead.
You at least have the hair to supplement, to cover that up. I was just... I looked like I fell down an escalator.
Your hair was amazing today.
But what happened was when I'm doing my hair, chunks of scabs come up into my wife's like, your dandruff is disgusting.
It's not dandruff, it's scabs.
It's scabs. Come on,
it's so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
It's just chunky scabs coming off. So yeah, the class was very physical. Their class was really geared around the wrestling aspect of being basically pinned, tying up with someone, and then being able to either stop someone from stabbing you in a more wrestling clinch position, or you having a knife and them having a knife, and whoever gets to the knife first, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of wrestling involved in the class, as well as some of the knife fighting. I enjoyed the class based off of more of the real life knife fighting skills that they taught. For me, I've been to lots of knife fighting classes before, a lot of, Filipino knife fighting classes, that sort of thing, where you're teaching your basic, slashes and all that kind of stuff. But this was really geared toward what they've seen work or not work in the streets. So, it was interesting. One of the things that myself and Mike had discussed during the class was, when am I ever going to use this?
Why would I ever use this?
Why would, if I have a gun and a knife on me and the situation called for deadly force, why would I ever draw my knife compared to going for my gun? So, you want to add on that?
Yeah. So a couple things, and I think Craig kind of made this point pretty poignantly, is that despite what we would like to think about the end all be all conflict, ender that a gun is, that's not necessarily the case, right? We've seen that here in classes when we teach our disarms, where you might get one round, but if I can keep that slide from reciprocating, done. That gun's out of play, right? He told a personal story about one of his experiences. He was a narco officer and did some crazy shit in his time, to where, that gun has to be pointed in a effective direction. And if I don't have the mobility, or the room to be able to make that happen. So there are some limitations that come with utilizing a firearm in some of those very, very close up scenarios. And so I think that was one big takeaway for me. But again, it just highlights more of do your best to not get that close. There's going to be times where you don't have that choice, but yeah, that's always my primary. My primary is going to be my firearm. So
for Craig, one of his things was where he developed the shivworks class was because he was in a situation where he was in a vehicle. The guy had pinned him up against the door. So his gun was, he never stated it, but I'm guessing he was the classic
what position it was
classic
in.
3 o'clock for cops. So he couldn't get to his gun because the guy was on top of him. And he was thinking, well, if I had some sort of knife in the appendix type carry, I could at least gotten to that.
Yeah, that was his range of motion. He had this to get to.
Yeah, it was basically the appendix area. If you're not watching the video wise, the appendix was the only spots he could get to.
Yeah, 10 to 2, he said, is where his hands were able to move.
Yeah. So me and Micah were like, well, we always carry appendix with our guns. So why would I go for a knife? So number one, the only reason I'd ever find myself fighting somebody with a knife would be close quarters. They've pinned you somewhere. Everybody always throws out the case, well, if you can run away, run away. Oh, sure. If you can, I guess, that's a great choice.
Great idea.
I don't want to fight someone with a knife if I don't have any other tools or weapons with me. No, I really don't want to do that. So, we were talking with you scenarios, stuff like that. So yes, if I'm, pinned in a corner, somewhere, pinned in a vehicle, something like that. But then we always fell back to, why would I go for my knife instead of my gun? And the one of the only scenarios we've come up with so far would be if I didn't have my gun.
Non-permissive environment.
Yeah. So I'm traveling. I've gone to a different state where I'm not allowed to carry my gun. I've traveled to a different country where I'm not allowed to carry my gun, and maybe my knife is the only option I have. So I know for me, when I was doing executive protection work, I traveled to other countries with clients that I couldn't carry a gun. So my only weapon I had was a knife. So that would be one of the few scenarios where we could see the knife fighting skills possibly come into play. Can you guys think of any other scenarios for yourselves where going to a knife instead of a gun would be relevant? Anything, boys?
Man,
I mean, there's always.
I know we couldn't think of many.
You can play that game.
We'll play the game.
Can you carry a gun on duty?
Yes.
Well, not when you're doing your SWAT stuff.
No, yeah, I'm still on duty.
You can when you're doing your medical stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the fire department.
Yeah, on the fire department, yes.
Very few fire departments will allow that.
Okay.
Very
Honestly, in that situation where if your department wouldn't allow it, but you could carry a knife.
Yeah, that would be an incident, to situation
Micah
where,
came up with that for you.
on duty as a firefighter, you can't carry a gun. Yeah.
Daddy's got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're in New Mexico. You can't carry a gun into a bar.
Okay.
Or some place that serves alcohol, but that doesn't mean you can't carry a knife.
Right.
100%.
Okay. So that's another scenario. So into a bar where I have to leave my gun in my vehicle or whatnot. Okay.
I don't know. Can you carry a knife into a hospital? I mean, I always have. Yeah. So a hospital.
Yeah. Unless it's the VA, then you can't carry.
Also true.
In the VA,
no weapons allowed.
No weapons allowed. So I usually have to drop my gun, and I usually drop my knife sometimes.
Which, not to jump too far, but that was also something that they discussed in that class was I found odd where we weren't talking about the cutting edge of knives until almost the very, very end of class, where, a screwdriver, a punch tool, like all these other things. And that was the focus in terms of the strikes and how we were doing the things. It was more just making holes as opposed to the slash.
Yeah.
So something where like we've seen the Sharpies that have the point, they're not actually a Sharpie. Or like those combat pens. I know like Magpul makes one and some other ones where it's like, that's something that will never, it's a pen, it's a writing utensil.
Yeah.
But to be able to use it, the strike is the exact same as if I'm holding an edged weapon.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of interesting too, where it's like, even if I can't carry.
You think a knife fighting class, you're going to be slashing and cut this, cut
very
that.
Little, very little slashing.
It was more, they focused on, let me use the point of the knife.
Punch you in the face.
That's your number one go-to to go as deep as they can into your body with that blade, instead of the slashing type stuff. So Chad, talk to us about some of the knife wounds you may have seen while working.
Well, my big when you were talking about that is, but look where they taught you to strike.
Right. Where so the main areas we're talking about striking is the face area, the neck, area, under the armpits, the horseshoe in the groin area, so the groin and then the femoral on each side, and then the back,
love handle, the kidney love handle area
around the spine where you're hitting those kidney.
In the back of the back of the neck too. I remember the back of the neck too, which I guess
the whole neck,
all the way the collar all the way around.
Yeah. Well, so those are the main spots that we discuss with the stabbing of the knife and getting. Because they focus on a 2-inch blade is like one of the longest
clinch
blades.
pick that is designed by Craig Douglas. Yeah.
So that's not much of a blade. So they want you to hit as hard as you can to get as much of that blade into the body as possible.
Yeah, and those are all junctional areas. Every one of them. Yeah, so
what does that mean, Chad? What's a junctional area for some of our listeners who may not know?
Okay, so you have your junctions, which are in your groin, under your armpits, around your neck. That's where your main arteries flow through, and they're pretty close to the skin, and they're very hard to manage when you have a wound to that area. It's a very difficult and long process for packing. So they're really tricky wounds to deal with.
Okay.
And, you get a blade in there, and, we've seen a video of that.
Right. The guy,
one guy in the subway or the mall, and he 12 seconds.
When you saw, were you in there when I showed my cop video?
No, not today. No.
Okay, so I have another cop video where
really,
where
that's bad.
He's walking up on a possible suspect. He got a call. He's asking the guy, "Are you the guy that called?" He gets, I don't know how close,
7 feet, 10 feet.
Yeah,
tops.
pretty close. Guy's got a knife right on him. Draws the knife, goes after the cop. Cop runs, turns his back to run. Falls, and then the guy gets on top and just right in the neck. Man. Right in the. I mean,
you can hear the arterial spray,
the bleed.
Yeah.
Wow. In the video, you can hear
on his body cam, you can hear the arterial spray.
Yeah. Oh. And then a CCW civilian comes up, sees what happened, actually shoots the guy with the knife, goes to try to give first aid to the officer. He rolls him over, and you just hear him go,
he's like, "Where are you bleeding?"
Oh, shit. He's like, he could see right there. He's like that. There's no surviving that wound.
Yeah. You could be a surgeon on scene a lot of times and not.
Yeah. So bringing that knife to the gunfight, he won that fight.
It wasn't even a gunfight. The guy never even got his gun out, right?
Like, he had one.
Yeah.
He had one.
Yep.
Yeah, and he didn't even have enough time to get to that gun to get the gun out and get shots off.
Distance is your friend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So like I said, the cases we've come up with so far on when I would go, for my knife instead of a gun. All right. Let's talk about if we did have that. So let's talk about like when I was doing my EP work and I traveled overseas with a knife, I just carried a folder, in my pocket. Okay. So, taking this class, I learned quite a bit about the ability to get to the knife, right? So I went up against this big old Homeland Security boy. Was my first guy I had to fight.
Big boy.
He fucking worked me. It was good. Fucking worked me. Okay. I didn't think he was going to go so hard because I kind of practiced with him a little bit. Like, oh, he's going easy.
Yeah.
This guy should be a piece of cake.
Ding, ding.
So when they tagged me with him, I was like, we're good. We're good.
Sandbagged you.
Yeah.
Straight
He's not going to go
you.
hard. Jesus Christ. Freaking came out the gates. I'm like, oh, God.
Bro, yeah. Nick was mounted in less than 10 seconds,
Dude,
like trying to shrimp his
he
way out of
gets
there.
the wall, lifts me up, slam me. He's on top of me. I'm like, what happened? What just happened? Yeah. So one of my big takeaways from that fight was I couldn't get to my freaking knife. I had it in my waistband, just right here. Okay. There was no retention. It was a fucking foam knife.
Yeah, tucked under your belt.
Stuck in my pants. I couldn't get to my damn knife. Yeah, the guy pinned me up against the wall, so I couldn't get my arms to get the knife. When I did get my arms free to try to get the knife, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. I thought I dropped it. Yeah. So I'm trying to. So I'm focused, so hyper focused on getting my knife. This guy's just working me, Yeah, because I'm like, where's my knife? Because my whole objective was get to my knife and stab this guy.
As he's curb stomping
as he's just smashing me. Yeah, and then I'm looking around on the floor because I think I dropped it. And then that's
bright orange. Where is it? I don't see it.
By that point, I'm like on the ground. He's on top of me, and I'm like, Jesus, okay. And then I finally find it. Yeah, it's where it was, right in my waistband. But that was very eye-opening on if I have some sort of folder knife in my pocket here, what's the likelihood that if somebody runs in, starts tackling me, clinches with me, a good wrestler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, something like that, what's the likelihood I'm going to be able to get to this folder, get it out of my pocket, and then
get it open,
get the blade open to be able to use it? I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to do that or not. So I've been thinking a lot about, for knife choices, what should I go to? Yeah. What should I go to?
That was a big takeaway for me. It was interesting. Craig called the folders broken knives. That was his category, was the broken knife. I'm like, oh, I get it. It's two pieces and it's broken down. Like, no, it's broken. Like, I can't get to it. I'm not going to be able to get it open. I'm not going to be able to utilize it effectively. That was a big takeaway for me, was knife selection.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us, when we see a cool knife, a cool pocket knife, whatever, right? Like, I want that Benchmade.
He destroyed all of ours.
Every knife. Except for my dagger, my sock P. He's like, this is kind of cool. My sock P dagger that I keep in my chest rigs.
Yeah.
Those serve a very particular purpose.
Because we were able to, we put all our knives up on the table.
There was like 50, 70 knives on a table. It's like garbage shit, garbage.
No, I'm not
what do you call
he called ours the
fidget spinners?
The fidget spinners of knives. The
Microtex. I'm like, that's a $600 knife. He's like, yeah, it's the fidget spinner of pocket knives. I'm like,
we're all like, whatever.
I'll go home now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home with my fidget spinner. But yeah, I mean, fixed blade, 2 to 4 inches, and positioning wise, I think was another big one. And again, right, like, let's be honest with ourselves. What do we use our knives for? 99% of the time. Yeah, opening my Amazon packages. Cutting the saran wrap on the barbecue sauce because I can't plug my teeth in there.
I have come to the conclusion that my folders are now just going to be
a tool
for cutting boxes open.
Yeah.
That's all they're good for.
Your folder is almost a box cutter, right? Yes. That little black one that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, without talking about where and when, like, I've worked several violent crime scenes, the big meat cleavers, the big square blades, slicing and all that stuff. The most damage was done when I was out on these scenes and working these homicides and stuff. Paring knives. The little apple cutters, the inch and 3/4 inch, 2-inch blades, super slick, because that's what's going to go through the rib cage. That's what's going to hit that, nick that aorta. That's what's going to hit that little junction. And it doesn't take like a slice through that. It just takes a puncture. And that little puncture, there's nothing you can do to stop that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can recall specifically one scene I worked is a trailer house. Puncture between the ribs, clipped the aorta, made it to the back door 40 feet away. Collapse. Done.
Yeah.
You hit that aorta.
And there's nothing you can do about it. Like, they're done.
Yeah.
You know, so
Interesting.
understanding that and seeing, like you guys talk about the training and what you went through, and of course, you know, being a control tactics instructor in the federal law enforcement side, we use the shock knives. If you never played
The shock knives, I love those things. I still wanted to buy them.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, it's like 3 9-volt batteries. You know, you definitely feel it, and you don't want to feel it very long.
That shit hurts.
Yes, it
hurts.
does. It does. But playing with that, and then you see like none of that slashing and all that stuff does the damage of the sticks and the pokes.
Yeah.
And the ones it was the small knives, just like you're talking about, the 1.25 inch, 2 inch blades that were doing the most internal damage. That it's irreversible. There's no repair for those things.
Okay.
It's weird how traumatic knife injuries are.
Yes.
You know, as you know, you have gun injuries you think are traumatic with all the energy that's transferred, but knife wounds are just as traumatic.
Yes.
You know, it's just to think about it, you would think the gunshot wound would be way more traumatic, but you know, we see like knife. I mean, I don't want anything to do with a guy with a knife.
Very, very limited, like you said, probably, you know, very focused positions. But when you focus on those targets with the knife, it's the trauma there is almost non-reversible.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you can do about those things.
Yep.
And so they can be very, very deadly, which is kind of goes back into that 21-foot rule and all of these things. Like distance is your friend, because if you get somebody that knows very specifically what they're doing with a knife, it's bad for that person.
Yeah.
Horrible for that person.
Yeah, I took a class with a guy named Steve Tarani, and he was a big crampet guy, and just watching a different style, you know, but just I didn't realize how many times I could be cut in like 3 seconds until he cut me like 9 times.
Yes.
I was just like, holy crap. He's like, yeah, I cut every junction in about 3 seconds.
I remember one of the training scenarios that we went through was just all you're trying to do is stop, right? Like, you know, there's a lot of people teach on the slicing and the slash modes, like turn your hands inside to try to keep the tendons and all of those things. And one of the things we did that they made us do was bring us white t-shirts.
Yes, you could, yeah.
And then all he did was have markers.
Lipstick or markers.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, that guy didn't touch me. Like I controlled this knife, whatever. And then you look down at your shirt and there's like 15 slash marks, and you're like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, the thing with I've never been stabbed, thank goodness. But what I've heard a lot of is, you know, you don't realize you've been stabbed that many times.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
You don't even feel it.
about that.
Yeah,
I had my buddy in the Marine Corps. We were at Denny's, and
Classy.
Yep, it's good stuff, dude. It was late, and he was making eyes at this other guy's chick.
In the Denny's.
They may or may not have been gangbangers. I don't know. But as they were leaving, one of the guys pulled a knife and stabbed my buddy in the back 14 times. Collapses. I believe it was a single collapsed lung. May have been double. I'm not sure. I know it was a collapsed lung. But yeah, 14 times. He didn't even realize he was stabbed for quite some time before we started seeing the blood and everything like that. Like, dude, like,
You're in trouble.
bleeding a lot. Yeah, we need to get you to the hospital. But yeah. So yeah, just came up right behind him. I mean, it was over within seconds. Just 14 times, stabbed him in the back. Yeah, and then freaking took off.
Well,
Yep.
I think something that was interesting too for me that was, I don't know what the right word is, but I felt a little bit better about myself, sucking less, was that, and granted, right, we were given some limitations. There were certainly some instances where if I'd have thrown a good knee from the position I was in, it would have changed it, or a nice sharp elbow would have changed some things. But there were some highly, highly skilled people in that class.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu black belts, champion wrestlers, like phenomenal athletes, like some solid dudes in that class.
Just ears of people.
Yeah,
like
cauliflower
ears all over the place. It was bad.
But
did it make a difference?
Well, so that's the thing, right? So in the clinch, right, when we were sparring in the clinch, I'm like, I am woefully outmatched. And they were great about like working with the less experienced guys. I'm like, okay, so I'm going for my knife now. Like, what are we going to do? Like, how are you going to address this? I'm like, I'm going to cry. No, okay, I'll do that. I'll do this. And then they're like, oh, that's really great how you have this here. If you just drop your shoulder, that would have happened. But when we got in, I think what they called it, murder corner or whatever, the padded room.
Yeah.
There was virtually no difference in the performance between someone who had been to this class for 2 days and was just some stay-at-home dad or a jiu-jitsu black belt, right? There were no rear naked chokes. There were no arm bars.
It all looked like shit, boys.
All looked like hot garbage and just trying to stay upright and stay conscious, right? Those are their two tenets.
Yeah.
And I took a lot away from that, right? Where it's like, yes, their hands were tied a little bit, but there were gonna be no flying kicks and elbows dropping
it's just
fucking chaos. Like it's just management.
There's no magic sauce in that anywhere where somebody's going to outperform somebody else.
Unless you have like thousands and thousands of hours of working this particular skill set, the differentiation between a skilled knife fighter and a moderately okay, I can maybe make it out of here alive, that's not a lot.
There wasn't much. It was big
and eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Seeing these high-level guys and their tactics just went to shit.
Yeah.
It was just a mess. No matter how you look at it. I mean, we can show you guys our videos and stuff like that, but it was a mess.
So question for you guys that attended this. You had this big Homeland Security guy. Was size a huge factor in a knife fight?
For me, it was.
Yeah, for some cases, yes. Like I told Mike,
that was my strength.
I'm saying in this murder corner, because we did the same thing in our training, right? The punching bags and the dummies and all that stuff, and you got stuck in a corner of the shock knife, and the whole thing was now trying to attack that edge weapon, not the person himself, but stop the edge weapon.
No, I think size. Yes, I think size.
Yes.
Or
absolutely.
Was speed.
Both.
Like did that bring? Is somebody super fast even if they're
not speed?
I don't think speed.
Violence of action, which is a key term,
of course.
Right. So my two things, right, and Ron Engelman, who was on this podcast previously, he was there with that in that class as well. And something that he said really resonated with me, and something that Nick said really resonated with me. So I have minimal hand-to-hand skills, like zero knife fighting skills. I'm a pretty big boy. Right. I've got a lot of man meat to move around and I can move it decently fast. That was my advantage. I used my mass and just aggression to break distance, to throw people around. Like there was no skill in it. I'm just like, I might outweigh you by 20 pounds, but I'm going to make that feel like 80 pounds. And there's something that Ron had said. He's like, you'll notice as we see. So the day one was 1v1 knife fighting. Day two was 2v1 knife fighting. And he's like, watch what happens when they switch the roles, because you would be the bad guy fighting a good guy with a knife, and then you would be the good guy fighting the bad guy with a knife. And it was really interesting to hear him say, he's like, when it's the good guy, they're in survival mode. They're just trying to survive the encounter. But when it's the bad guy, they're trying to kill the other dude. He's like, you just have to be willing to kill the other dude all the time. You're a good guy, bad guy, doesn't matter. Your job is to kill the other dude. And I took that to heart. And every time I got in one of those tussles in those fights, it didn't matter if I was the good guy or the bad guy. I'm just trying to fucking kill the other guy in that room. And that helped out a lot. And then just my mass, like I just threw my mass around as much as I could for like the 35 seconds before I was completely fucking gassed out and just like cramped up and like, Nick's like, breathe. I'm like,
but if you think about that, and back in the martial arts, right, you would also they would have these guys that would attack you, 1, 2, 3 people, and when you start thinking about that, it kind of goes back to that type of scenario too. Like the guy that's getting attacked, he can throw all kinds of haymakers and crazy stuff and whatever. All he's got to do is connect once.
Yeah.
The other 2 or 3 people that are on the same side, they got to be careful, because if you start kicking somebody and you kick your buddy, like
we saw that. We saw dudes attacking the wrong people.
Now you're down to 2, right? But so to that point, it kind of is that good guy has to take on that mentality of, I have to survive this and win when there's like 2-on-1. And when you get in that mindset, there's a lot of damage that can be done by one person if you adapt that mindset of I'm going to win this fight, because especially if there's two-edged weapons, they have to be careful not to be hitting the wrong person where you could just go crazy.
Well, and another thing too, right? And Craig had said this too, where it's like sometimes it's going to be just one solid hit that's going to end this.
Yeah.
So my law of averages says if I can get 3 solid hits in, I'm 33% better than the guy who's like aiming for that one fucking ninja shit. And I'm just like, I'm going to try and get as many in there solid hits as I possibly can.
Yeah.
It's just a game of numbers, but not taking a hit to get a hit.
Yes.
That was a big thing, big thing as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't absorb those. You can't absorb that shit.
So, yeah. So, I mean, again, it was interesting. And then, to break it all down, it's like, yes, if I am open-handed going up against someone that has a knife, do I want to be there? No. Okay. If I can find a way out of that situation, if I have room to create space, get the fuck out of there, okay, then I will. But if there comes that case where I'm in a room I can't escape, I'm in a vehicle I can't escape, I'm in a corner and I can't escape, and I have to go open hands toward knife. Yeah, I mean you've got to be aggressive. You have to control that knife, control the arm with the knife, and try to win that fight as best you can. Yeah. So yeah. The whole knife on knife thing, like I said, situations that we're going to find ourselves in are just going to be limited on that one. But like we saw when it was knife on knife for these guys, it's just
disaster. Yeah.
Just a mess, dude. Just a mess. Yeah.
I think a takeaway from that, and that applies here as well, is, as when it was just knife on open hand, all I had to focus on was control that knife, control that knife, control that hand. But as soon as it was, I have a knife too, let me split my attention and try and control that and get my knife out.
You can only focus on the one thing.
It was, it would significant decrease in my focus and my ability. It's like, okay, my grip isn't as good because now I'm sacrificing to get to clear my garment and get my knife out. And then I'm going to do that really fast and try and create distance. So it's that same thing we talk about here with that processing power and the rote task. And
you have 100%.
How much of it's being spent?
If 50's on controlling the knife, only 50% can be on attacking with the knife.
Right. As opposed to 100% on just controlling this fucking knife.
Yes.
When I was fighting that Homeland Security guy, that's what I found myself doing, is like, I'm not focusing on trying to stop this guy from beating me.
Pummeling you.
I was focused on trying to find my knife that I couldn't find. And I thought it was crazy how
you were getting pummeled because of that.
Yeah. Because my brain was focused on trying to get the knife. It was very interesting that break where I could have just focused on stopping this guy from hitting me. Okay, covering up something, but no, I was
I need my knife. I was
hyper focused on, I've got to get to my knife.
You got to get the weapon, and then you lost all focus of everything else.
Yeah, I did. I did.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah,
we all get it.
Yeah,
we all get it.
And task saturation with 2 tasks completely saturated. Right, I had one task of keeping his knife away, and then I added one more of trying to get to my knife. And it's like I'm overwhelmed. That's it.
So again, it was a great experience. Like I said, I thought it was very realistic. What I compared it to was what we used to look at as the martial arts back in the day, and then when we saw like the UFC come into play, and we saw all of these different martial arts fighting each other, and then what it turned itself into. We saw what arts worked. We saw what arts didn't work. And that's what my training has been with knife fighting up until now, was just all the old art of knife fighting.
The old butter beans of the UFC, just brawling. Big old dude. Like you would never see a butter bean in the UFC today, right? Yeah. Just decimated, just absolutely destroyed. But back then, before it was what it was,
So it was interesting to see that shift between, hey, this is the ancient arts that we've taught for years, compared to, hey, this is what we've actually seen work on the streets, in these type of clinch encounters and that sort of thing. So
I mean, like you alluded to earlier, you don't have to be a highly trained knife fighter to land these shots.
No,
you can just have a basic knowledge If you know where to hit, like it's
Even if you don't know where to hit, dude.
Yeah.
I don't even think that freaking matters.
If you just know how to throw a punch, like if you know how to
If
range
you just
yourself,
move your hand a lot.
a distance, right? Like,
Hit something. You're gonna hit something.
valid point.
Yeah. So
is that what I want to go into a knife fight with? No.
No. But seriously, I mean, I think it just takes very little skill
Yeah.
to do massive amounts of damage
Yeah.
with a knife.
And I think once people go through those type of trainings, they realize that some of that stuff, like you're talking about, the old style, the old way of somebody comes at you with a knife, you can block this knife and you can do this eye gouge, you can do none of that stuff works because it's so quick.
Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones, Under Siege.
Yeah, none of those things are working because it's so quick and it happens so fast. You know, your buddy 14 times and you don't recognize
Didn't realize it.
Seconds.
It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's what they focus on the class as well, is teaching no complex techniques. I mean, any of these martial arts that teach you guys, hey, there's this 12-step technique that will, take any man down and
5-point exploding palm heart.
His heart will explode after you do this 12-step technique. That shit don't work in the real world, man.
Hot garbage.
Yeah, it's like you got one or two moves that you're going to do, and then if you try to do anything else, it's not going to work for you.
This is overwhelming violence.
Yeah. So you can't think that you're going to be doing all these different techniques. If he does this is what I'm going to do, and then if he does this is what I'm going to do. That ain't how it works in the real world, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah. They gave us like 2 modes. For each solution. Yeah. Like, here's solution number 1. Here's solution number 2. That'll address 99% of what you got. Go left or go right. Just do something.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I love Krav when it comes to martial arts, just because they're very similar to that, where it's just like a lot of their stuff ends in side control. Okay. And then it's very basic and it works.
Yeah.
So another takeaway I got from the class was that knife selection, because I don't know if you thought about this.
100%.
Yeah. So
punch dagger. I'm going punch dagger all the way on my body armor.
So I don't know. I thought about the punch dagger, but I also thought about just a more of a smaller fixed blade that I could run horizontal on my belt.
Other than your SE that you have now?
No, it was something smaller than that.
Okay.
For like an everyday carry type.
EDC. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So yes, I've got a 3-inch Etsy that I carry on my battle belt, but that's too big.
So you're thinking EDC, like not battle belt, body armor, everyday chest rigs. Okay. Yeah.
Punch dagger on your plate carry.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I agree with that. I like that. I like that option. I'm talking about something if I'm traveling overseas. And all I have is a knife for protection. I don't think I want a punch dagger. I think I would like.
No, I agree.
Some 2-inch, 3-inch blade, something thinner, smaller, something that I can carry horizontally on my belt that I can just shirt up, pull, and I can go to work with.
I really like the Sharpie thing, the discrete, non-edged weapon tools.
But where are you going to have it at?
Again, on the belt line.
On the belt line.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's just I sign a lot of autographs.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I have this Sharpie on me.
How do you deploy the knife on those?
It's not a knife, right? It's just literally a Sharpie pen that the filament's been taken out of, and it's like a.
So you have to pull the cap. You have to pull the cap off to deploy it.
So the cap is part of the mount. So when it comes out, the cap just stays.
Okay. The cap stays. Okay. I haven't seen this. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what the inside filament is, if it's hard plastic or carbon fiber or something.
Usually they're carbon fiber. They're like a one-time use. Like they
literally just buy a bunch of Sharpies and pull the felt filament out of it. I don't know. Okay. They might have even been like a cease and desist order from Sharpie to not. They're legit though. You can Google it. You can find them.
Okay.
But there's even people making carbon fiber knives now.
So they talked about that. They talked about some of that
fiber knives,
which and with some interesting takeaways from that as well. But even like a multi-tool or something, right, where it's like the screwdriver tip end of a whatever.
Well, and there was, I don't know if you know this company, there was Archangel that used to make like a plastic or polycarbonate type same type of thing that you get from Benchmade with it's an actual pen, so you can write with it. You can do those things. But it had like a big surface area for like a thumb, and then it would pass a plane check or an X-ray
we talked about
because
that.
it wasn't metal.
Like one of the guys,
plastic.
even in class, talked about he carries like 6-inch titanium knitting needles.
Knitting needles. He goes, I carry knitting needles
Yeah, it's
on
like
the
I carry
airplanes
the
and stuff.
fat.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, he's like, I carry the fat, like number 2 gauge titanium knitting needles. I'm like, oh my.
Because they have to allow they
can let those on a plane.
That's in the rules. That's
Allowed to have it
one
on a
of the
plane.
things allowed onto the plane. I was like, no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always ways around the rules if you're willing to search it out.
Which and so leading into that, talking about the polymer knives and the defeatable, what do they call the countermeasure defeatable things like that. Having to articulate your way through why I have a polymer knife that will pass through a metal detector.
Yeah.
And how many students have we had who've like forgotten their concealed carry guns in their backpacks going through the airport?
Or ammo.
Or ammo.
Right? I don't know who that would have been. But that comes with certain considerations. And if now
absolutely.
I've like stabbed the shit out of someone with this polymer knife with no metal in it, and I got to articulate my way through that discussion. So,
What's up, terrorist?
Yeah, tell us why you have this hard-coated carbon fiber polymer edged weapon on you, sir.
Yeah.
That ain't mine.
Yeah, I don't know. I took it from him. Yeah. So again,
I
never
carry a
getting
pen.
in a knife fight, but
I'm like Jason Bourne.
That's what I'm saying. Like a pen, something that's like, oh, this is it's just my normal writing pen.
Well, my concern was where it's going to be carried at and how are you going to deploy it? Because that was one of my biggest takeaways was it has to be easy to get to and easy to get out. And
the 10 to 2, it's got to be in there.
It can't be a folder that I'm trying to pop out and trying to stab
So
you.
that was kind of my next question for you guys that went to the class for you and Micah. More off to one side, like a 3 o'clock position,
Nope.
and
10 to 2.
Appendix carry.
What was the easiest option for you guys to get to an edge?
I like the horizontal appendix carry area to be able to just.
For me. It wasn't quite horizontal. It was just like
If it was angled, to be fine.
Just down a little bit into the the soft spots right there, the tender bits, so that I can get to it. I can either reverse. Pull it out from this side, or I can just pull it out straight from this way.
You had options to be ambidextrous.
Either hand.
Because
a lot of times one hand was pinned, you'd have to get the other hand. We even saw quite a bit of hand changes because you'd have the knife, they'd pin your hand, you'd have to exchange it to be able to get it, to be able to deploy the knife.
Yeah.
So more in the general appendix.
Yes.
Yeah, and especially because in this scenario, you're not going to have your firearm. Right, where it's like, and I've tried that. I've tried to carry the stock P or the scallywag dagger on top of or next to my firearm in my extra mag.
Yeah.
It's too much. I'm not doing it. It's not something that's going to happen.
Anybody trying like the behind the back and how did that work out?
It didn't work out well
Not at all. Yeah, we had some people in the rear pocket, that little side knife pocket, like on the thigh, right? That like low pocket in the front knife one. It's just not. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work.
People had the most success from getting the knife out from that appendix style carry. Yeah. And that's what I said. Like, I'm going to find a knife that I like, something that I can carry in that position. Am I going to carry it when I have my gun? No, I'm not. That's going to be only used if I'm going to somewhere where I can't carry my gun with me and I have a knife only.
Which is not to say that I don't carry a knife every day.
No. I'm going to continue carrying my pocket knife. Yes,
right.
Of course. But now I know that it's like some of my knives I don't cut boxes with because it's like, no, this is my people cutter. I might as well just fucking throw that out the window.
That's my spinner tool. My fidget tool.
They're all just tools that I'll cut boxes up with because I'm never going to cut a human with it because I'm not that good.
Drop 400 bones in this thing.
I know. I think that brings another thing too, right? Where it was like, I am mildly proficient with my concealed carry, right? I'm okay. I can get to my gun. I can get a round out. I can get my rounds on target. I've put in a lot of work.
Okay.
I've put in a lot of work to get there. I'm not putting in that much work on a stabby. I'm just not. I don't. No. It's not a thing that I have the time, the space, the mental fortitude, and honestly, just the will to do. And so to think again, right, where it's like, the murder corner. All right, I'll learn to get to it. This is already something I'm used to doing, grabbing at my 10 to 2 to get to my gun. But it's not something I'm going to train. I have enough hard enough time getting to Krav every week, right? Where it's
like I said, we saw
it didn't matter, right? It didn't matter.
The amount of training, I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
It's like it all turned into a shit show. No matter the highest, quality fighter we had there, when they were pinned up against in that corner, it all looked the same to me. Yeah.
But do you think Krav would have, if they'd have let you loose, if they'd have cut you loose, do you think using Krav would have made a difference in some of your situations?
Like 10 to 15% difference.
Maybe.
I could have got some significant elbows and knees in there.
Yeah. But you weren't allowed to kick or knee or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, so jiu-jitsu wise, and I'm not busting on jiu-jitsu by no means, but like, do you think if you knew jiu-jitsu as much as you know Krav, do you think it would have translated to the same effect?
I don't think so. I mean, like I said, we were training with multiple black belts in jiu-jitsu in the class.
So,
the whole point of it is not to go to the ground based
upright
off
and conscious.
of it's a street fight. There could be multiple people kicking you in the fucking head as you're on the ground. You don't want to go to the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of the BJJ guys, like I trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for fucking years.
Yeah.
But the BJJ guys are going to do great when they're on the ground, but that's not where you want to be.
Maybe.
What's that?
Like 1v1.
One-on-one, yeah. But still, that's not where you want to be in the fucking street fight.
Right.
I don't want to be on the ground.
Yeah. If I got to do an armbar and his buddy comes over and just starts fucking stomping my face in, that armbar is useless to me.
And that's kind of where I was going with that whole question.
Yeah.
I'm glad you I was like, that's exactly what I was going with.
Yeah. I think the violence, the upright striking, the simplicity of Krav yields itself to those situations.
Yeah.
As opposed to the technicality like Nick was talking about of some of these 12-step, crazy whatever. And again, we saw 20 plus year jiu-jitsu black belts get fucking pummeled.
Worked.
Just get
worked
fucking
in that
pummeled.
corner. Yeah.
But different application.
100%.
Yeah. So it's like apples and oranges in a way. Yeah.
I mean, like Ron, he's a Krav Maga instructor. So, it's interesting because he was talking to us about him. He doesn't teach much knife stuff because
offensive knife stuff.
Right. Because they in Israel can't carry knives on them legally. They can't carry them.
Well, now they can carry guns.
Maybe that'll change.
So what his point was is like, hey, I saw this, why teach it? Because we can't carry knives legally. But he said after October 7th, he saw that, a lot of these, housewives, stuff like that, were defending their families with
kitchen knives.
Kitchen knives. That's all they had. They didn't have guns in the house. That's all they had. So he's like, hey, I'm going to start teaching offensive knife work based off of maybe all they have to work with is that kitchen knife. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well.
So anything else you guys want to add when we talk about knives?
Speaking about knives, what do you carry? What kind of what
knives wise?
Yeah.
I got them all inside. So I have this is my work knife that I don't plan on cutting humans with. But and this is
Tiger stripe. That's sexy.
What?
Is that like Wish.com, Temu? Where'd you get that?
No, this is stolen from a student that left it behind.
Recovered.
Why does that not fucking surprise
the preferred nomenclature?
I'm like, if you're watching this video and this knife belongs to you,
let us know.
It's now mine.
B-roll has more integrity of finding that knife in the parking lot and giving it back to what's his name.
Yeah, so somebody left it in their bunk. I'm like, it's a good knife. I'm gonna use it. Okay, so this is my box cutter knife. That's why I have it for class. I've got the Microtech, my love knife. I was really hoping.
I know you were so excited.
I was so excited. I got this love knife. Microtech, because I wanted the, the fancy, what do you call those knives anyway?
Switchblade out the front.
Type knives.
Out the front, switchblade, yeah.
But I'm like, they're expensive, like $500. And I'm like, well, if I buy my wife one too, and we both have one.
We have his
and hers.
That's cute.
Yeah, they had a Valentine's Day special. So it's got fucking hearts all over it. Yeah, so I'm in the middle of this class.
I got one.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of this class with all these dudes, and I'm like, fuck yeah. I threw my heart knife up there. I'm like, come on, give me some shit.
Like, yeah, fidget spinner. Moving on.
Yeah, nobody gave me shit. I'm like, come on. I expected a little bit of shit from that. Yeah. So
I'd have definitely gave you shit.
Before we leave the house, I'm like, I got my love knife. You got your love knife?
You touch tips? Yeah. So this is, for those of you who are on the YouTubes, this is my Gerber. And it's literally shaped this way because it's basically a fucking box cutter. Like I open hot dogs with this when I'm cooking here at camp, right? Like I open my Amazon packages. I'm not stabbing anyone in the face with this.
Yeah.
I'm never like deployed. It's like polished, slippery, like this side's super polished. I'm not.
Yeah.
Like that's not happening. It's not happening, right? I'm like literally opening this to cut open hot dogs and Amazon packages. Like that's.
I mean, it is a gnarly looking blade, though.
It's nice. I mean, it's fun. It's ergonomic. It's got the little
But the
whatever.
whole point of the design of that, you'd have to slash.
Yeah, this is if people, I'm going to like fight with this.
Yeah.
Which was interesting was another thing. I probably have cancer now, according to Craig. Because like all the knives with like the ridges on the end where you think like, oh, that's my thumb. I'm putting my thumb up there. And oh, we had the back one and putting your thumb across the top. It's like, no, dude, every single time you will lose your knife. Like to wrap it around and hold it in your fist was the way to do it. And I've got a lot of knives that have the ridges on the top where you're thinking I'm doing this for that power stroke. Find the Backbone was that movie where he's like doing the tongue.
The power assist.
The power assist. The hunted. Yeah. It's like, and the stab and the and like the 15th and then really go deep for that back. Yeah,
power assist.
That's Hollywood bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, not happening.
Such a great
not
movie.
happening. Yeah. This is my box cutter. That's really all it is. This is my cardboard.
Yeah, it's one thing I learned also with carrying that knife when we were trying to stab in the face. I tended to do that thumb, try to put the thumb on the back.
You dislocated your thumb.
I dislocated my thumb earlier in class. Lucky a chiropractor was there.
The PT.
And he's like, oh, yeah, that's
out.
He's like, your thumb's out.
You get my bill later.
He's like, snap. Oh, it was so loud. It was so loud. Don't ever do this on your own. What do you say? There's like some artery or a vein or something in there?
Don't do this on your own. He's like, you ready? I'm like, yeah, sure. What crap?
Bro, I heard it from like 3 fucking counties away when that snapped. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I fractured my wrist like trying to smash someone in the face. It was not good.
That's a distinct snap.
And that's because I had my thumb. I was
had his
holding
thumb
the knife,
over the top.
and I hit this guy in the face so fucking hard that I hit him in the face with my thumb as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And if that knife was actually going in to the person,
you'd have peeled it back.
That's luckily I would have hit that thumb as well instead of just keeping that solid grip and just trying to hit as hard as I could. Yeah. So, what knife you got?
Now none.
Okay. No. What knife do you normally carry everyday carry?
Basically like a box cutter.
It's almost like this, but it's got
very similar.
It's an out the front.
Okay.
It's one of those, I have
like the switchblade.
I have to dress up in a suit, so it has to look cool.
Executive
knife.
It
has to look cool. Yeah, executive. But no, when I carry a knife, it's a basic pointed knife.
Okay.
Because I have done some knife fighting stuff before, so I'm like, okay, I don't need anything. It's got the little edge on the front, so that when you do hit something with your hand slides. It's not going to go onto the knife edge.
Okay.
That's what I normally carry. Like if I know I'm going out somewhere, but for my job, I'm normally sitting in the office. On the vest and stuff, it's like a 4-inch small blade. Almost kind of what Micah carries, but it is a knife blade. It's really something to stab somebody with. Not slice, not cut, it's a double edged, but they're all pointed.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like looks wise, more the Tonto blade, the butcher blade, they're cool looking, but I realize, when I'm out here, I carry a razor blade because we're cutting open ammo boxes.
Yeah. No, I got you.
I carry the little shop knife. Yeah.
Beaks and buttholes.
Beaks and buttholes, baby.
Yeah. At work, it's more of a pointed knife just to stab somebody if that's my last result.
Okay. What about you, buddy? What's your question?
Yeah, I mean, considering I don't have a knife on me now because I flew and I didn't check a bag, so I couldn't carry a knife. But typically I'll carry, I got a Civivi. I think that's what it's called.
Civivis. Yeah, make really good knives. I like their stuff.
Joe turned me on to them, and I looked. I was like, "Man, these are kind of nice." So they were relatively inexpensive. They weren't.
What's inexpensive?
Like anywhere between like $50 to $100.
Oh, okay, yeah, pretty inexpensive. Okay.
And I bought 2 of them. I bought the what they call the broke knives
folder.
The folder.
Brokeback knives.
The brokeback knives, and I bought a 4-inch. Fixed blade.
Okay.
Yeah. They didn't have anything smaller than 4-inch.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I want to look for something. I'm thinking like a 2-inch. What do you think?
2 inches is pretty small, man.
pretty small.
What do
Three's
they
that
call them? The
happy-
clinch pick they had, those little 2-inch ones.
I didn't know because the clinch picks are only bladed on one side.
I know, but it's still
Yeah.
a 2-inch blade,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think so. On my battle belt and shit, like I've got big knives. I've got like a
understand
Benchmade
that.
Nimravis.
Yeah, but
and
I'm talking about
Scallywag.
on your everyday carry, 2 or 3 inches maybe.
So look at Civivi. They have got a lot of really cool options.
Yeah.
Slim, easy to
they're
carry.
slim.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then I really just like my Sock P. I love that thing.
Okay.
I think you should just go get one of the steak knives out of the kitchen.
I know that'll cut someone to the bone at last class.
Absolutely will.
Yeah,
Yes.
those knives. We had,
100%.
we had a student here that was trying to cut his belt with our kitchen knives and freaking sliced his hand to the bone. When he was out here, he's like, "Those knives are really sharp." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He didn't even
are."
feel it, I'm sure. Like, oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, I
That was
think-
all visual.
Yeah, I think a fixed blade, dual edge dagger style knife is going to be that
the
best
go-to.
slim line
Okay.
on the belt. Because how wide's your belt? 1.5 inches wide.
Yeah, inch and a half.
Right, versus like a 2-inch or 2.5 inch wide, curved edge knife that doesn't have the
Yeah,
edge
just
on the
something
back
straight.
end.
Yeah, something thin.
Whatever that one that Craig showed us, it was almost that sheep's hoof. That I think is the name of the design of the blade, where it had the dual edge on it, where it was the straight edge and then it kind of curved across the top with another edge. But again, super small, right? It was 2.5, 3 inches. I think it had the 550 cord wound, fixed blade, and it just sat in a nice little Kydex sheath that you can just clip to your belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be.
That's going to be my go-to. I just got
gonna
to
be the way to
find
go.
find
Like,
out which one I want,
your
which one I
3
like.
inches, that happy medium to where you can still wear it.
It doesn't kick out.
Oh, yeah,
It doesn't,
kick
it doesn't
out.
expose
Print.
it. Yeah.
Because that Civivi does. It's
It
4
kicks out?
inches.
Okay.
Yeah, it kicks out. So
Well,
I got to
the
wear it
blade
up and
is
down.
4 inches, right? As
Yeah,
opposed to the
yeah.
overall length is
Overall
probably
length
closer to
is
6 inches.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a thumb hole in the back. Nice knife. But I got to wear it vertical, so I can't wear it.
Yeah, so I wanted something small
Yeah,
enough,
yeah.
short enough, thin enough that I can
Yeah.
just carry along my belt horizontally.
Which they make a micro sock P dagger.
Okay.
That'd be cool. The shorter blade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that something
117
you guys?
bucks.
Is that something that they talked about or considered? Like,
Yeah, he was a big-
Well, what I'm saying is, you said 550 cord, slip handled knives. If you're actually stabbing somebody 13, 14 times in this kind of fight, is it going to get
It was
really
all about
slick?
that grip.
It's all
You know
about
what I'm
the-
saying?
Yeah.
And so something that has a little bit of texture is probably going to be a good thing.
Yes.
as well.
Yep.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was more about of how you were holding it that kept it in your hand versus that thumb or the thumb over the back or trying to get all fucking foo crazy with it.
Yeah.
Just fucking wrap your fist around that thing.
And just squeeze it.
Punch him in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool.
So do you think the thumb circles on those knives are detrimental, or since it's closed and you're
That's
wrapped
another
around
spinner.
Another spinner. Yeah.
So the daggers, the Sock P daggers come with that to get them out. And the reason behind that was, I guess the story was some operator guy had been in a fight and he had one of the big blades in his plate carrier. And the dude grabbed it off his chest rig and just started
stabbed him
stabbing
with
in the
his own
face
knife.
because he had
Yeah.
a 2.5 inch handle exposed, where that Sock P dagger just has that keyring loop where I can just run my finger through it, and the whole knife is completely tucked
covered.
away.
it's purely for being able
just
to
to like
get the
get
knife
back,
out.
get back. Yeah. So the same thing down here, right? If I just have that one little hook, it's not some big thing that's
Big
hanging
thing,
out.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
so,
that's
that
where
was
the
that was
loopholes
weird.
come in.
Oh yeah, we learned something new there with the backstory behind why that was
why
developed.
the dagger was developed.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it wasn't really meant to hold on to it, just be able to get the knife
Get it out.
You witness learning, people.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys want to add? I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
I think
Don't
we've
get
covered
in a
lot.
fucking knife fight. Just
run.
don't do it.
Yeah, get out of there. Don't do it.
So yeah, and again, if you have to get into that knife fight, we've covered with you guys kind of what we've experienced. It's a shit show.
Shoot 'em.
Shoot him! Shoot him if you can. Yeah, if you can't have it, you want to get a knife on knife fight. Good fucking luck.
Go take you a shivworks class.
Yeah, good luck.
Lots of ibuprofen, heat packs.
BioFreeze. BioFreeze. I was spraying the whole class down with BioFreeze. It was. We ran out of ibuprofen. Everybody's like, "You got some drugs, man?
You got the ibuprofen? You got them 800s? You got them 800s?
I went out. I got.
Make sure there's a PT in your class that can help you relocate your thumb.
Yes. So again, hopefully you guys, that's helped you guys out. Any questions on any of this stuff, you guys can always comment below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for all the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
All right. We'll see you guys next episode.
The good
Stabbies.
Thanks for listening to the American Gunfighter Podcast. Be sure to listen next week. And please don't forget to leave us a review. Also, if there's a topic you'd like us to look into, please be sure to leave a comment.